Well, we're back today talking finance with financial advisor Gavin Martin from Cornerstone Wealth. And if you've been monitoring the news, you'll know that there's all sorts of talk about another potential cut in interest rates. So in this low interest rate environment, what about the difference between renting and buying if you're thinking of a house? Gavin Martin's back with us today. Hello, Gavin. Welcome back to 2020.
Oh, g'day, Neil. Great to be with you.
Gavin, seems to be around interest rate announcement time from the Reserve Bank. There's always talk about buying houses and first home buyers and whether it's cheaper to rent or to buy. In this current environment, what are your general thoughts?
Yes, currently with interest rates very low compared to where they have been in the past, and I'm sure there's some people that remember the 18% interest rates a few decades ago, but it's incredibly low, and what that does is reduces the cost of owning your own home versus renting. And so I think the number of suburbs that are cheaper to cheaper to buy or own than rent in has gone up almost fourfold over the last, I think it's almost a year. And so that's great news for those people that are looking to purchase their property. But the thing that you need to be aware of is to make sure that you can afford the repayments, even if interest rates do go up a couple of percent. You need to allow for that into your in your decision-making process.
This is the challenge, isn't it? Because if it's easier to borrow money, it may not be as easy to pay it back even in the months or the year or two ahead, because there is a possibility, isn't there, that once interest rates bottom out, they'll begin to rise.
Yes, exactly. And whilst the expectation is that interest rates could be cut at least another 0.25%, 25 basis points, it might not be much longer that they start to go up again. So you need to be aware of that. You can mitigate the risk of that by fixing your mortgage in for a term, but often the terms are 3 years or 5 years, and it's at the end of that term that you need to be able to afford potentially a 2% increase in your interest rate if they have gone up. And that was the nature of the issue during the global financial crisis, where these low doc loans over in the United States were all coming to the end of those 3-year honeymoon periods, and the people that had those mortgages couldn't afford the jump in interest rates that they were going to incur at the end of that honeymoon period.
And Gavin, we mentioned that newspapers in particular, and of course you'll see current affairs programs too, talking about those suburbs in communities where it's become cheaper to buy than it is to rent. And there's too many to talk about, given we're talking to a national audience when we're in our conversation now. But I guess it's to keep an eye on your own local newspapers to find out what it's like to buy in your area.
Yes, I think that's great. If you are renting and looking at getting into the market, then it's great to keep an eye out on what the valuations of properties are, understand what is good value for money, save a good deposit, and you might use the First Home Savers account to save a deposit for your home. And then when the time is right for you, that you've got sufficient deposit, you're able to afford the repayments, then it's great to get into the market if you don't already own a home.
Always concerns me the volume of the real estate marketers, because as soon as there's a little bit of bad news in the economy, the volume of the real estate marketers gets louder and louder, saying it's it's a great time to buy. And sometimes I've got to say I wonder whether in fact we're being told the truth. So how would you diffuse all of that? How can you know when it's a good time to buy and not just be driven by the marketing?
Yeah, that's a very challenging one, because everyone's got their own vested interest. Property spruikers basically make money from selling a property, and so they'll get a commission from selling that property. They'll want to sell properties regardless of what the climate is, and you've got to be aware of what those interests are. So there's this saying, follow the money trail, and you understand what people's interests are. And so if you can work that out and work out where they're making their money, then you'll understand what to take with a grain of salt. But the key there is firstly knowing the particular area that you're investing in, and understanding valuations and what their properties are worth. But then secondly, it's important to understand your own financial situation and what's affordable for you. So there might be property spruikers might say it's a great time to get into the market right now, but it might not be a great time for you right now. You might not have the sufficient deposit. It might be cheaper for you to still rent. But then at another time, once you've saved a larger deposit, it might be that good time for you, even though the marketeers aren't actually saying that. So it really gets down to your particular circumstances.
So you're saying when it comes to buying property, it may well be cheaper to buy than rent, but if you're not ready yet, this is a good time to actually be researching and finding out what will be best for you, because this bit of foreknowledge is going to be a forearming as to not getting burnt when that time comes.
Yes, and even if you're not yet ready to buy but trying to investigate the market, it's really worthwhile going to view properties. I know that you can do a lot of research online and via the internet and the websites, the property websites. I think one property expert I heard said you need to visit at least 100 properties before you actually find the right one for you. So even if you're not ready to buy right away, it's probably worthwhile starting that process, because it can be a 12, 18 months, 2-year process to find that property that's going to be the right one for you.
And of course, it leads to another question which we might have to discuss next week, and that might be, is this a good time to buy an investment property if you've already got your first home? Gavin Martin, I'll point people to your website, www.cornerstonewealth.com.au. And a reminder too that the things that we talk about with Gavin as a financial advisor are in general, and it doesn't take into account your personal circumstances, and therefore it's best to go and see your financial advisor for a specific advice. And of course you could visit Gavin Martin's website at Cornerstone Wealth. Gavin, thanks for being with us again today on 2020.
Thank you, Neil. Great to be with you.